Tonight, the latest developments demand your full attention. And once you hear this, you will understand why. Something has shifted inside the British royal household, and it has shifted dramatically, and it has shifted fast. Over the past 6 weeks, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has executed a series of engagements, decisions, and public positioning moves that have left royal observers with only one conclusion. She is no longer waiting in the wings. She has stepped forward. And the person whose space she has stepped into is Queen Camilla. The reaction among those watching closely has been nothing short of seismic. Before we dive deep into what is actually happening inside Windsor and what it means for the future of the monarchy, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what is unfolding between Catherine and Camilla is the kind of slow-motion institutional shift that most coverage is missing entirely, and you deserve the full picture. This is not tabloid speculation. This is a pattern of documented, observable events that tells a coherent and extraordinary story. And here is my question for you. After everything I am about to lay out, do you believe Catherine taking greater command of royal life represents the natural and right evolution of the monarchy? Or do you have sympathy for Camilla's position and believe she is being edged out in a way that is simply unfair? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one, and I genuinely want to know where you stand. Now let me paint you a picture of exactly what has been building, because once I break down what is really going on, you are going to see this situation in a completely different light. This is not just a story about two women in the same royal family navigating proximity and precedence. This is a story about the future of the British monarchy itself. It is about which vision of the crown is going to define the next 30 years, and whose values, whose temperament, and whose understanding of duty will shape what that institution becomes. That is what is actually at stake here, and the answer is being written in real time, engagement by engagement, decision by decision, week by week. Let me set the scene. The British royal family operates according to a carefully maintained hierarchy of protocol, visibility, and institutional weight. At its peak sits the monarch, King Charles III. Directly beneath him in terms of constitutional importance is the heir apparent, Prince William, and flanking the king is his queen consort, Camilla. For 2.5 years since the accession in September 2022, that arrangement appeared to hold a workable equilibrium. Charles handled his duties. Camilla fulfilled her role with studied competence. William and Catherine operated as the monarchy's future, present but not yet dominant. That equilibrium has now fractured, and the fracture lines are impossible to ignore. What makes this moment so significant is its historical weight. Royal precedence battles are not new. They are as old as the institution itself. In the Tudor period, the positioning of consorts and heirs at court defined alliances, signaled political futures, and sometimes determined survival. In the 20th century, the rivalry between different branches of the family for public prominence shaped how entire reigns were remembered. The tension between the Queen Mother and Wally Simpson, even after Edward VII's abdication in December 1936, never fully resolved during either woman's lifetime. These dynamics are real. They have consequences. And they do not disappear simply because the modern world prefers to pretend royal families are unified and harmonious. They are not always unified, and right now the evidence suggests they are anything but. Let me walk you through what has happened point by point, because the individual moments are striking enough on their own. But it is the pattern, the accumulation, that makes this story truly extraordinary. The first indicator came on the 14th of March 2025, when Catherine carried out what royal correspondents described at the time as an unusually prominent solo engagement at the Royal Marsden Hospital in London, the same institution she had publicly credited with her own cancer care during her recovery announcement in January 2024. The engagement was not unusual in itself. What was unusual was its framing. Buckingham Palace's communications team issued the coverage briefing in language that placed Catherine's personal connection to the hospital front and center. Language that royal media analyst Richard Fitzwilliams noted in his commentary for the Press Association deliberately positioned the Princess of Wales as a figure of individual institutional authority, not merely a supporting member of the royal family on a standard visit. That is not nothing. That is a communications choice. And communications choices at Buckingham Palace are never accidental. But here is where it gets really interesting. The second indicator came just 11 days later, on the 25th of March, when Catherine appeared alongside King Charles at Windsor for an engagement that, by established protocol, would typically have included Queen Camilla at the king's side. Camilla was absent, officially due to a scheduling conflict. But multiple royal correspondents, including the BBC's royal editor Sean Coughlin, noted in their reports that the absence created a visual of considerable symbolic weight. Catherine standing at the king's left hand. The imagery of continuity and succession made visible. One photograph from that engagement circulated across social media platforms within hours, generating over 340,000 interactions on a single post. The caption that accompanied most shares of that image was not written by a journalist, it was written by the public, and what the public wrote overwhelmingly was some version of the same observation. This is what the future looks like? And it doesn't stop there. The third indicator is arguably the most telling. In April 2025, Buckingham Palace released the updated schedule of royal patronages, the formal list of charitable organizations, institutions, and causes under the direct patronage of individual members of the royal family. Royal patronages are not merely ceremonial. They represent institutional influence, public platform, and the soft power that translates over years into genuine authority. When the updated list was published, royal watchers immediately identified something significant. 3 patronages that had been held jointly, shared between Catherine and Camilla, had been quietly reorganized. In each case, the lead patron designation had shifted. In each case, it had shifted toward Catherine. Think about that for a moment. 3 patronages, quietly reorganized, no press release, no formal announcement. Just a change in the institutional record that anyone paying close enough attention would eventually notice. Royal author and historian Hugo Vickers, who has written extensively on the mechanics of royal protocol, including his authoritative 2011 biography of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, has argued in interviews that patronage reorganization of this kind is the most reliable indicator available to outside observers of shifting internal priorities. In his words, the palace does not alter patronage arrangements casually. Each change reflects a deliberate institutional judgment about where long-term investment is being placed. The palace invested in Catherine 3 times, quietly, deliberately, without fanfare, but wait, because we have not even reached the most significant development yet. In May 2025, Catherine undertook what palace sources described as her most ambitious solo program since her return to full duties following cancer treatment. Over a period of 12 days, she carried out 14 official engagements across 4 different areas of focus: early childhood development, mental health provision, the arts, and military welfare. 14 engagements in 12 days. For context, in the equivalent 12-day period in May 2024, while she was still in recovery, Catherine carried out 0. And in the equivalent period in May 2023, before her diagnosis, she carried out 7. She has not merely returned to her previous level of activity, she has surpassed it, significantly, deliberately. The palace's framing of this program was striking. The communications materials referred repeatedly to Catherine's expanding leadership role within the institution, not her continued service, not her return to duties. Her expanding leadership role, that is language with intent. That is language that signals something about how the institution now sees her and where it intends to place her. And here is where the story becomes genuinely, deeply emotional. Because to understand what this moment means, you cannot separate it from everything Catherine has endured to get here. In January 2024, Catherine released a video statement confirming that she had been diagnosed with cancer following abdominal surgery carried out in January of that year. She was 42 years old. She is the mother of 3 children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, aged 11, 9, and 7 at the time of her diagnosis. She had not sought public sympathy. She had, in fact, spent months prior to the announcement managing intense public speculation about her absence from duties with extraordinary restraint, saying nothing, protecting her privacy, and enduring a level of public scrutiny that was, by any fair assessment, intrusive and at times frankly cruel. When she finally spoke, she did so with a composure and a grace that moved millions of people across the world. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Comments across social media platforms, many from people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who described their own experiences with cancer diagnoses, spoke of recognition, of solidarity, of something that felt more honest than anything the royal family had offered the public in years. Let that sink in. A woman facing a cancer diagnosis, managing that reality in complete privacy while raising 3 young children, while enduring global speculation about her health and her marriage and her whereabouts, chose, when she finally spoke publicly, to focus not on herself, but on the people watching who might be facing the same fear. She said, "As I have said to them, you are not alone. Not a word about the cruelty of the speculation. Not a word about the invasion of her privacy. Just a message of solidarity. Think about what that took, and now consider this. Diana, Princess of Wales, also spoke publicly about her private struggles in ways that broke royal convention and connected directly with ordinary people experiencing ordinary pain. Diana's November 1995 Panorama interview, watched, as noted earlier, by 22.8 million people, was precisely that kind of moment. A royal woman stepping outside the managed silence of the institution to speak in human terms to human experience. The establishment found it uncomfortable. The public found it extraordinary. Catherine is not Diana. She has never tried to be Diana, and those who suggest she has are misreading her entirely. But there is something in the way she has handled the past 18 months. The illness, the recovery, the return, and now this gathering of institutional authority. That carries the same essential quality that made Diana so beloved. The quality of authentic humanity in a context that usually demands its suppression. The comments responding to Catherine's May 2025 engagement program reflected this. Thousands of responses from viewers across the United Kingdom, the United States, Australia, and Canada described watching her return with a mixture of admiration, protectiveness, and something that can only be described as relief. Relief that she was well. Relief that she was present. Relief that the person so many people had quietly decided represented the best of what the monarchy could be was still there, still committed, still working. That is not institutional positioning. That is earned love. And it matters enormously. Now let us zoom out and consider what this means for Camilla and for the monarchy's long-term architecture, because the implications extend well beyond palace corridors and patronage lists. Queen Camilla's position has always been complicated. That is not a controversial statement. It is a historical fact. When Charles and Camilla married in April 2005, polling showed that only 28% of British adults approved of the marriage. By the time of Charles's accession in September 2022, that figure had risen considerably. But the shift had taken 17 years of quiet, patient, professional conduct by Camilla, and it had never fully overcome the foundational complication, which is that for millions of people, Camilla's path to queen consort ran directly through Diana's suffering. Royal historian Dr. Anna Whitelock, author of The Queen's Bed, An Intimate History of Elizabeth's Court, has written about what she calls the permanent asterisk in Camilla's public position, the unspoken qualification that accompanies her title and her role in a way that no amount of time or competence can entirely erase. It is not, Whitelock argues, a matter of fairness. It is a matter of historical record and emotional memory. And in a monarchy whose legitimacy rests fundamentally on public affection, emotional memory has institutional weight. This is not just about Camilla. This is about what the public is prepared to invest in. YouGov polling from February 2025 found that 67% of British adults expressed positive feelings about the Princess of Wales, the highest approval rating of any member of the royal family at that time. King Charles registered 56% positive. Queen Camilla registered 44% positive. The gap between Catherine and Camilla, 23 percentage points, is not a fluctuation. It is a structural reality. And institutions as sophisticated and as survival-oriented as the British monarchy do not ignore structural realities. The three patronage reorganizations are not coincidental. The communications language around Catherine's expanding leadership role is not accidental. The visual of Catherine beside the king at Windsor on the 25th of March is not unplanned. None of this is unplanned. The monarchy has been doing this for over 1,000 years. It does not stumble into symbolism. It deploys it. What we are watching in real time is an institution making a calculated decision about where its long-term credibility lies. And it has decided that credibility lies with Catherine. Personally, I want to be clear that I approach this with genuine respect for every person involved. Camilla has served dutifully. She has carried out her role with professionalism and, by most accounts, with real commitment. She did not invent the circumstances of her own history, and she has spent 2 decades attempting to demonstrate that her contribution to the institution is genuine and substantive. None of that should be casually dismissed. But when I look at the full weight of what the evidence shows, the patronage changes, the communications language, the visual positioning, the public approval numbers, and above all, the moral authority that Catherine has earned through the extraordinary grace with which she has handled the last 18 months, I think the direction of travel here is clear. I think the institution has made its judgment. And I think that judgment reflects something important about what the public actually needs from the monarchy right now. The public needs to believe in the people who represent it. They need to feel that the crown is inhabited by individuals whose conduct they can genuinely respect. And right now, by every available measure, the person generating that response most powerfully is Catherine, Princess of Wales. That is not a small thing. In a monarchy facing the pressure it currently faces, declining approval among younger generations, Republican sentiment rising across the Commonwealth, questions about relevance and accountability that are not going away. The capacity to generate genuine public respect is the institution's most precious resource. Catherine has that resource in abundance, and the palace knows it. So here is what I want to hear from you. Do you believe Catherine's growing prominence within the royal family is the natural, right, and necessary direction for the monarchy? Or do you think Camilla deserves more credit and more stability in her position than she is currently receiving? And perhaps most personally, when you watch Catherine carry out her duties now, after everything she has been through over the past 18 months, do you feel, as so many people clearly do, that something about her conduct has genuinely moved you? Tell me in the comments. Be specific. I read every single one. If you found this deep dive valuable, please subscribe, hit the like button, turn on notifications, and share this with anyone in your life who follows the royal family closely. Because what we are watching unfold between Catherine and Camilla is not a minor adjustment in palace scheduling. It is the monarchy deciding, in the most deliberate and consequential way it knows how, who it is going to be. This story is far from over. There will be more developments, more signals, and more moments that clarify the picture further, and we will be here with everything you need to understand them. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.